Welcome to Upstream International TV, where we share conversations about upstream, ministry, family, and living for Jesus.
Hey guys, I hope you tune in today and check us out while we talk about quarantine upstream style.
And my dress.
And your dress.
Yeah.
What is it like to not just go with the flow during this tough season? We're going to highlight a few things for you, basically talk about some of the things that we've seen come out of quarantine that could maybe be negative, but also how to flip them into positive, where to keep our faith, what bridges to burn, what things to hold on to.
There you go.
How to stay sane.
And we talked about my dress.
And we talk about Sammy's dress.
So it's fun. Join us. Babe.
Sam.
Look what I'm wearing.
I feel like knowing you did that on purpose.
I did. So, this is the infamous dress.
Oh, from last week's episode, Infamous.
Yes.
Yeah.
You like it?
Where did you get it?
Thank you.
That's not what she said.
No.
She said, wow, I like your dress.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. We're practicing.
We're practicing non-social awkwardness.
This right here is what we call exposure therapy.
Yeah. Okay, so tell it to me again.
Hey, I love your dress.
Thank you. It's green. That's what I know. That's something else that I would
do. Thanks, it's green. It's my favorite color.
It is one of my favorite colors. I even painted my nails.
For those that have no idea what we're talking about,
they have to. Yeah, you have to. If you don't know about the dress, with the ruffles, you would definitely have to watch last week's episode. Mm-hmm. I have nail polish on me. I had a difficult time tying it because it's
Now, what would you call
difficult.
that? It's not a bow tie, but
it's a bow tie.
It is a bow that you tied.
It's a bow tie.
Oh,
wouldn't it be?
Girls wear bow ties too.
I do.
Nice, very cool, Sam. So this week, I don't know how I feel about this week's topic.
You want to? Okay, before you go there, I do have something I need to just get out there.
Okay.
I feel very weird and naked because.
Really?
If you know me, which obviously you do.
I do. I know.
I always wear big earrings.
Oh, you have little earrings in. You always wear big earrings. I feel
naked. They're little, but here's the thing.
It's like wearing really scad underwear.
Scad?
Scampy?
Skimpy?
Scandally?
Joe.
How would you say that?
Small?
Yeah.
Okay, no,
Maybe.
It's not like that
Maybe
at all.
Small. But you said
I
you
do
feel naked.
I feel weird, but my thought process when I was getting ready was, okay, I have on a dress and it has a lot. Wrong thing still.
Oh,
it has a lot going on right here and all of this right here. Yeah. So I figured, like, if I add big earrings, which I normally would, it would just
draw
be
too
like
much attention.
It'd be like a lot going on here. So I'm like, I'll just put in the little ones.
Scantily.
And they're cool. I'm like, am I wearing them right?
Help me with this
Am I wearing them right?
I don't know which one they're supposed to go up.
Scad I've never heard of before. Is that a word?
How would you say someone is scantily dressed?
Scantily clad.
Scantily clad.
Yeah, that means they're dressed with not much on.
Yeah, that's
scantily
what I meant.
Clad.
Little underwear.
But you said scad.
Scad? Did I?
Yeah, which I don't think is actually a word.
Let me not remind you of sweatshop clothes.
Okay, whatever. Should we talk about your attitude today?
No, because that's not fair. Well, it's kind of fair. It could almost be even used in today's theme topic, whichever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You can't have a good day.
Okay.
You can't have a good day every day.
Well, I can. I'm just kidding.
All right, so here.
Pretty close.
We'll theme
if
it
we're
off.
Being honest
we'll theme
with
it
ourselves.
off my coffee mug here. So
actually, I can have good days. See,
my coffee mug says "Get after it."
So you woke up today.
I woke up. So yesterday was Roman's birthday. I'm chill. I'm relaxed. Roman spoils.
The big 14.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he spoiled me for his birthday because he goes, Dad, all I want for my birthday is to watch
Survivor all day
to watch Survivor
long.
Which to me
Who do
is
you
like,
think did not get included in that because real life happens?
For me, one, because I love Survivor. Two, I really wanted a day to just lay on a couch.
Especially with Ro.
So
yeah.
I did the gym thing. I did the breakfast thing. I got everybody set up. We did the birthday cake thing. We did.
You got your Upstream work done. You got your Devo done, and then you did nothing.
I got my emos, my Devos and my emails done.
Got my emos.
And I was
That's what we could call it.
Emos. So I was like, Rome, let's go do this. And I even stopped to thank you in the middle because I enjoyed it so much.
Because I was working my tail off all day long yesterday.
Which gets
while Joe watched Survivor.
Which gets me to my point.
Which, okay, I do need to give credit where credit is due because, yes, it was annoying that you got to sit and watch TV all day yesterday, but it is definitely not something that you would normally do. You work very hard.
No, and in a weird way, leaving you alone allowed you to get some work done.
Oh, did it? Did it allow me to?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I did get a lot done yesterday.
That was
but
what I was telling myself.
I did get a lot done. I was up till 2 getting stuff done. And also, it was a rough day.
Yeah. Which also is another part of our topic today.
Yeah, it is. You just sounded really dorky.
Oh.
Which is really another part of our topic today.
Was that too upbeat for me?
It was too...
Okay, we won't go there.
Oprah Winfrey show? I don't know. No, because she's not like that. I don't know what that would be because I don't watch her anyways. But
on our walk the other day...
Did you hear Tony? Is that going to be a problem?
I don't think it'll pick up.
Tony's... the kids are hidden from us because, obvious reasons when you're filming. And the dogs too. And Tony is not liking it. So
He's eating.
He's probably eating his kennel. Yeah, he probably is. And he also ate glass this morning. So that was cool. Real cool.
Not just like glass, like huge hunks.
Well, I mean, he didn't swallow them. Thank you, Jesus. But he did get himself a little cut up. I don't know how in 5 minutes of not... Was it even 5 minutes of not looking at him that he was able to destroy my lantern?
I took him outside, let him eat like he eats every morning, and turned my back. Went to look at him.
He's going crazy too. Quarantine craze.
And he was eating glass. So this is the Upstream quarantine edition.
What were we going to call it? Did we think of something dorky to call it?
No, we were going to put our spin on it and saying, how do you do quarantine upstream?
Oh yeah, upstream quarantine. Quarantine upstream.
Quarantine upstream.
Yeah.
Well, upstream simply means to go, upstream, to not go with the flow. And in today's day and age, while everybody's quarantining and face masking and COVIDing and everything else together, some are handling it better than others.
And let's be real here, guys. We all have bad days. Joe had one this morning. I had one yesterday.
I would not classify this morning as a bad day. I couldn't switch my attitude. I had trouble telling my face I was happy.
Pastor John said on Sunday, some of you need to tell your face that you have joy. So this morning, Joe's face and mouth weren't representing the joy that he said that he did have.
I was trying to have.
So I did remind him, hey,
I was trying
remember,
to do
we need to let
the mindfulness of saying this is not the attitude I choose for today. But I was stuck in it.
I need you to be honest with me.
Okay.
When he was talking about that on Sunday, about our face needing to tell it to have joy, were you thinking of anybody that you know that's sitting next to you?
Yeah, I think about how you need to tell your face that you're happy all the time.
Does anyone else have that chronic not nice face? I don't mean to. I just think sometimes I'm thinking and I'm very
I always just remind myself you're beautiful on the inside.
That's rude. Are you saying I'm not beautiful on the outside?
No, you're gorgeous on the outside. Rude. Sometimes you just don't tell your face it is.
Tk you. Anyways, so
quarantine edition.
We're moving on.
Quarantine edition.
Okay, so part of the reason that Joe was are you waving at us?
No, he's just pushing buttons.
We're just going to say hi to Ben. Everybody say hi to Ben.
Hi, Ben.
So part of the, it's kind of fun week. We have our own film crew.
My arms are
stuck. Closer to me? Well, we can't be because this is
microphone
in the middle.
But I'm good now.
So part of it was, Joe was in Haiti selling our personal belongings and some things that we're not going to be needing in the next couple of years in Haiti. And then had to fly from Haiti to Florida because a few weeks ago, Joe had gone to Haiti to pack up our personal belongings. So when our family left in March to come back to the States, everybody just basically had a backpack of their clothes.
Literally.
And their homeschool stuff. And then everything else we left in Haiti. And so he went back to pack, and then all of that stuff got flown from Haiti to Florida. And then it was waiting in Florida the last few weeks for him to get back there again to drive it home. So that was last Tuesday. You left Haiti.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was last Tuesday. And Wednesday, I woke up and About like maybe 9 or 9:30, I thought to myself, oh, poor Joe. I feel really bad for him that he has to drive 18 and a half hours by himself. Maybe I should go. So I actually booked a flight.
It was the greatest idea you've ever had.
It was the greatest idea ever.
In a long time anyway.
It was a really good one. So I booked a flight, and then I texted Calissa and Ben, and I was like, hey, so can you guys come over and watch the kids for a couple days? Thankfully, they're amazing, and they said yes. So between their work and school and our kids kind of working together, they held down the fort. I flew to Florida, surprised Joe, and then we drove back together with a minivan filled
22 pieces of luggage, 3 totes, and some really large artwork.
Yeah, and other than artwork flying off the roof and us having to repack the van on the side of the road, it went off without a hitch. Oh, wait.
Yeah?
Minus the fact that when Joe was packing the van, and here's the thing, guys, like, I'm a helper. I'm not lazy, but my brain doesn't work like, look at all of these suitcases and figure out how they fit in. Figure out how they fit in here. But his is. So I kind of like watched and like stuffed stuff into holes. But when Joe was packing the van, he moved the passenger seat forward.
Just like I told her, I was like, a couple inches. I needed it literally because to get the last piece of luggage to fit the way it needed to fit in, I needed 2 more inches.
So I said to him, Joe, you probably shouldn't move the passenger seat forward, to which he said, I need to. Okay. So he packs the van. We hit the road.
It all fit.
It all fit. Yeah. Like, he is a miracle man. So all we had to do was leave behind 2 empty suitcases. Like, we just stuffed everything in, and an empty tote.
Donation.
Stuffed all that stuff in, and then everything else fit in the vehicle. So anyway, so we hit the road. We're driving for like,
I think
a few hours. Joe has to pee all the time. So we were driving for a few hours, and then we stopped so that Joe can pee again and get something to eat. And Joe says, why don't you drive now? Which is the whole reason that I went, right? Was to help him drive. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm good with that. So I hop in the driver's seat. He hops in the passenger seat. We pull out of the drive-through, getting ready to leave. And he goes, this isn't going to work. And I was like, oh, somebody doesn't like their legs being cramped in the passenger seat.
It wasn't even that it was tight. I would say there was room, but it was awkward room. You know what I mean? You know how like you get
awkward room. It was.
Right, let me defend myself here.
Okay.
We're not talking chest in the dashboard squeeze. We're not even talking like there's nowhere to put my feet. It was one of those things where the floorboard also had to be where a backpack went.
Right, so nowhere to put your feet.
And our snacks and stuff. Now, I could have probably, maybe, figured it out, but it was like, this is not going to be comfortable because once you find a position, you don't really have anywhere to move. And I wouldn't say I'm antsy, but I need to move my legs sometimes. Miss, I can sit crisscross applesauce on a seat. Never once had a word to say about it. So it's fine.
So Joe drove the whole way because he couldn't fit in the passenger seat that I warned him about in the beginning.
And I learned I'm getting to be an old man because those are like...
Because you pee every hour.
No, those are particular things. When you sit down in a seat and you're like, this is 2 inches off from where I normally sit, that's when you realize you become...
Old?
Particular.
We'll call it particular.
Or old.
Okay.
Okay.
Back to why I was telling this story.
Yeah, why were you telling that story?
I was telling the story because now we have all this stuff in our house that was in the van. And it's taking up our entryway. Like, our entryway is full of all this stuff.
22 suitcases, 3 totes, and some very large artwork.
And in the meantime, while Joe was gone, we had to repaint our lower level. So when we bought our house, it was painted with flat paint that was like... terrible when you have dogs and kids. So we just had to repaint the downstairs, which is why there's still things like this archway that have not been hung back up. So the house is the house is a little discombobulated between things that were taken off the wall and now having an entryway that is full of suitcases of things that we have to sort through.
You're getting old in particular.
No. You were the one that was grumpy about it today.
Because your art isn't up on the wall, it's bothering you.
No, I'm talking about why you were a grumpy, rude jerk today.
Oh,
so
yes.
Joe woke up with the intention of getting that all done and kind of doing some organization.
I told myself. I had the faith to do it.
Forgetting that we had a table full of produce, bulk produce that we had to finish prepping, processing, and freeze drying. And so he couldn't get it all done. And while that was going on, Tony ate glass outside. Tony is our Cane Corso, and he's huge, and he eats glass. And all of these things were happening, and I was trying to homeschool Ox. And Joe he wasn't like mean, but he just wasn't, his face didn't know that he was filled with joy.
It's a true story.
Yeah.
I'm going to blame it on quarantine and COVID.
Yeah.
What names do you guys have for this season? That would be a fun one.
Yeah. What do you call it?
Trump calls it the China virus.
Oh, God, babe. Why would you say that?
I don't know. Because
can you delete that?
That's one name. That's one name I've heard it called.
Don't even. Okay. Here's something we're going to commit to.
I'm not even being political. I'm just saying.
You just said Trump. That makes it political. No.
Different names.
On any video that I am a part of, I can't speak for this dork. There will be no Trump or politics or anything else that is.
All right, so I heard.
Well, okay, that's not true because I might talk about some things.
I heard one man
but
call
not
it
like
the
we're
China
not
virus.
Okay, yeah, we heard one man call it that, which was rude, and we have Chinese kids, so it's like even more feels a little just like. Ugh, that's
I refer to it as quarantining because we started a long time ago.
What is this? It's September. We started quarantine a year ago.
I thought I remember
was
July.
August.
Yeah,
was
I guess
August.
July. It took a month or so before
we didn't get to Haiti to Haiti full time until August.
True story.
So the end of August and beginning of September is when our quarantine actually started. So it's been for us a year. And granted, now like we're not quarantining hardcore. Like I'm going to Target, we're going to the grocery store, we're going to church. There's social distancing things that are happening and masks that are happening and blah 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 blah. We're not being irresponsible, but
is we're slowly returning to normal.
We're still kind of quarantining
abnormally.
Yeah. It's just a little ironic that we spent months and months and months on lockdown. And there it wasn't quarantine. It was just lockdown. Like you can't leave. It's not safe to leave except for Joe was leaving, which that's a whole nother story for a different day. But it was like lockdown, complete and utter chaos, Haiti. Come to America a week later, COVID and quarantine here. So everybody here was kind of freaking out, and we're like, this is kind of easy, like for us, right? Because
well, it was easy because
there wasn't like a safety threat, and there wasn't
behind walls with
right.
barbed wire, and
right.
You knew food was accessible and gas was accessible.
Yeah, you didn't have to yes, there was no toilet paper, which is a little scary.
Yeah.
But, when we were on lockdown in Haiti this previous time, it was like we were having to drive all over the place to get like 5 eggs or, you'd go to the grocery store and they'd be out of stuff, or you couldn't go to the grocery store, or you would send somebody to the grocery store and they get robbed. Like it just was a very different thing, very different situation than here. But I think for us, definitely prepared us to be like, well, yes, there's parts of this that are for sure hard, and we can understand why it's really challenging, difficult for some people. But for us, I think like our perspective is just going to be a bit different because we've been on let's pray that, we make it through the day alive today type of quarantine, and rather than like what we're doing now.
If not us,
people that we care
our
about.
Our direct friends, people that totally different topic, different day.
Yeah.
But some of the preparations that came from that, things that we learned, experience through that, obviously we've been able to use.
Yeah.
And I would say thrive through the season.
Yeah.
It gets old. I mean, I'm never going to be one of those guys that says, "Oh yeah, it's a cakewalk." Now it's just things are obnoxious. There's little things that are obnoxious. So with that as kind of our platform, let's use that. This is the COVID edition. What are some things that you noticed as a mom, as a wife, that through this season really tested you, or maybe revealed some things that maybe are positive, negative, whatever. And then we're going to use that as a springboard to like things that we've seen relationally, like as far as community-wise, anything. Kind of an open door, but what are some things as you think on this testing of the American people, our faith, our positions, whatever it is? What are some things that you noticed, whether it be positive or negative? You could hit it both.
Well, one thing that I have noticed that's kind of disheartening. Well, okay, we'll talk about the disheartening part and we'll talk about the positive part. So I would say like one of the main differences that I see between how people like lockdown and quarantine in like Haiti, like us and the expats and all of the Haitian people that were quarantining versus how people are dealing with it here, is to me, it seems like, in Haiti, like obviously you have these like groups of people that are causing chaos and that are, causing mayhem. But on average, the people are unified. The people are working together. The people are, I have eggs, you don't, I'll share. I have tomatoes, you don't, I'll share. Yeah. I mean, people are becoming more and more unified and trying to move their country ahead. Whereas I think when I look at America, I see like something very different. And I see like, yes, are there pockets of people that are loving each other and caring for each other? Absolutely. Like, of course you see that. But I think more often than not, unfortunately, we see more tension and more, what's the opposite of, not disunity, what's the word? Like more friction and division and all those things. And so I think that, I'm guessing that probably the main reason is like Haiti, the people there they're used to suffering. Sure. They're used to living their life with zero plan. Rodeo. Yeah, it's not their first rodeo. I mean, like their life is not, plannable like it can really be for a lot of people in America. And so the people there, like it's just a way of life. Oh, it's chaos again today? Well, we're used to it. Whereas America, I think like, granted people here suffer. Granted people here go through difficult times. But you don't see in our lifetime the entire country having something happening, between COVID, wildfires, racial division, like just so many things, I think it's pressing people in a way they haven't been pressed before. And what's coming out of it, of course, like I said, there is, of course, going to be beauty that's coming out of it too. But then I think, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of stress that is boiling over and ineffective because people don't know what to do with all of the uncertainty and all of the fear and all of the just stuff,
It's so natural. And I got to really season my words here because I don't want anybody to think that we're... Scaring me. No, I don't want anybody to take a statement and think that I'm being extreme on it. It's just, let's go back to like it not being Haiti's first rodeo, what you learned from that. I'm guessing at some point, when it was kind of their first rodeo, they learned things from it. Mm-hmm. And I think when uncertainty is at a rise, when surviving the moment, it seems to be natural for us to be self-centered, a little bit selfish.
It's true.
Well,
like thinking about how it's affecting me.
Maybe I won't get toilet paper, so I'm going to take 10.
Yeah.
They say that the reason why we're out of toilet paper is not because we're using more of it. It's because
we're hoarding it,
we experienced going to the shelf one time, and it wasn't there. So now we have this fear that, if I don't grab 10 packs of toilet paper right now, there may come a day I don't have any. Well, I think with Haiti, let's just say they had those seasons too in a different version. But I think what you learn when you come out of seasons is what things did you do that need to be improved and work on. Mm-hmm. And I think Haiti realized that they're stronger as a community.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe in a moment, it seemed right to be selfish or self-centered. But that only works for the guy that was victorious. For the guy that got 10 packs of toilet paper is 100 other families, well, let's say at least 9 other families, or whatever, that didn't
like
get...
ours.
Right.
Thank God for
that didn't get toilet paper.
A friend getting us camping toilet paper from an RV store.
That is obviously a silly and kind of a micro problem. But that same mentality over a bigger picture...
Yeah. That's when you're running out of meat and you're running out of rice and you're,
Yeah. So...
Yeah, it is interesting to watch, and I think, I feel like I just keep thinking to myself, like, man, like God's really like prepared us for this season. Does that mean that we do it perfectly well? No, not at all. Yeah. But it definitely feels like I don't know, veteran. Is that seems like a big word for that because we're not like, I don't know. It just feels kind of like, oh, throw something else at us. Like we're kind of used to this kind of chaos.
It's like we went from maximum security prison to like...
minimum security prison.
Like we got an ankle bracelet on.
Yeah, right.
It's like...
That is kind of true.
You're still limited by this season, but you've had it so much worse.
Yeah.
That you can kind of sweat the small stuff. But that doesn't...
But we also know there's people that don't have that experience.
Well, that's what I want to get into.
Probably feels so much worse.
I want to get into like... Anytime someone has been the first to go down a road, so to speak, it's good for them to yell back, hey, here's the dangers ahead. Like, here's the holes in the road. Whether or not people take caution, that becomes, some people are stubborn, they want to learn their own way. But, like, what would you say to the families that may watch this? I've been on the receiving end of many phone calls, good close friends that I love, and I know that they got good heads on their shoulders, but this has been a testing season.
Yeah, for everybody.
For some, it's made them broker than they've ever been before. For others, it's made them wealthier than they've ever been before, and they don't know how to handle wealth. For some, it's like, wow, I'm used to only seeing my wife an hour a day.
And now we're together all the time.
Now we're together all the time. I'm not used to having my kids in my home. I'm not used to carrying the responsibility of God being in my home. I'm used to going to church to do this. So
everybody right now is carrying like so many new responsibilities. Sure. Like you have people who normally just go to work and go home, take care of the kids, go to bed, do it over. And now you have those same people who are now also a teacher and a school counselor and everything else that they're trying to be in their home. And it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. No, it is. And so my men's group and I went through, this was 2 weeks ago. Well, 3 weeks ago now, because I spent a week in Haiti. But one thing that resonated with me huge, sometimes the smallest things are like big deals, right? Then when they hit you really hard. I'll skip the story part of it, but basically what it was saying is when it comes to our promises, when it comes to our marriage, when it comes to our home, we all have a certain boundary around important things in our life. And the study was basically saying, what happens when you approach certain decisions in your life with only a plan A? Like there is no plan B. And they use this story of burning the ship. I'll just have to tell the story because it makes it easier.
I thought you said you weren't telling the
story. I
story.
know, but it makes it easier. Otherwise, there won't be any relevance. So it was a captain of a ship getting ready to go into enemy territory where they knew they were outnumbered. And the enemy has had so many victories. Like he could see on his soldiers' faces that they were scared to death. But he knew that they had no other choice but to land on that island. So he lands on the island. He gathers all the men. He tells the second lieutenant or whatever, to burn the ship. He says, set the ship on fire. And he did this for the one reason, is he knew that if the men had any plan B, that they would fight differently, right? That they would take this approach against what was a formidable enemy, and because they might think maybe if I stay behind or if I just run away or whatever it is, or I can escape this for a moment or a season, maybe I'll be one of the lucky ones to get back on the boat and go home. The whole idea of the story is basically what areas of your life do you live where sometimes you have a plan B? So, we could use divorce as an option, right? You could have a very, very struggling, trying marriage. And if you live in plan B and you start thinking about the things that could be on the other side, it's very easy to just
live your life in plan, like walking in plan A, but head in plan B.
So I bring divorce into it because obviously with the men's group and trying to strengthen our marriages, stuff like that, that was the topic. But really, it's anything that's important to you. The way you're parenting, the way you spend time with your wife, the way you spend time with yourself.
Yeah.
Where are the boundaries where there's only a plan A? Because if you are committed to the plan A, you fight differently. For me, sometimes it's just my weight. That seems like a silly thing, but if I do not want to return to a particular weight that I used to be and be unhealthy like I used to be, I then have to, I might cheat on a day or have a bad day or a bad week, but in the back of my mind, it's like, I know that's just going to cost me in the long run. I'm going to have to work out harder. I'm going to have to be more disciplined with my eating or whatever it is. But this idea of surviving this quarantine season is what areas are you going to protect? So if we're setting up our life to say, these are non-negotiable areas, there is no other plan B. I'm going to, remain faithful to God. I'm going to remain faithful to my promises with my wife, to my kids, my community, whatever it is. When we're in these seasons that we can't control. Like that's always been the weirdest thing about my life. I think the way I grew up as a child, so much of what affected me or influenced me was outside of my control, that eventually I had to just be okay with knowing there's nothing I can do about things that are out of my control. It has made bad characteristics in me in the other direction, that if I do have control, then I feel very guilty, I feel very condemned, I feel like I can even feel ashamed, if I just can't pick myself up by my bootstraps and get through that season. But we're in a season right now, whether we're in the middle end, whether it's going to come back in November, however this thing shakes out, it has left its mark on our society and on our world.
For sure. And nobody really knows what to do with it. And when you were, well, not nobody knows what to do with it, but many people don't know what to do with it. And when you were talking about the whole story with the ship, it made me even think about homeschooling with Ox this morning. And we were talking about Christopher Columbus. And I'm not pro Christopher Columbus, by the way, but it was part of the lesson. So 1492, he sailed the ocean blue. But one of the questions was, why did Christopher Columbus have such a hard time getting sailors to go with him? And I was helping Ox find in the text the answer to that. And the answer was that because nobody had crossed this ocean before. And so people were scared and they were hesitant to go with him. Yeah. And so I just think like in this situation, in this season, this is new territory.
Yeah, fear of uncertainty.
Yeah, there's new territory for America, and it's new territory for the church, it's new territory for schools, it's new territories for marriage and families and like all those things. And because it's not something that people have stepped out into before, you just have to learn from people who have stepped out.
Right.
And who have maybe walked some of those waters. And I think for me, I can look back to like last year this time when we were in Haiti, and we've been working in Haiti for 9.5 years. It'll be 10 years in February. And, we've experienced a lot. We have seen a lot. We've been there, done that. And yet, the last couple of years, we've seen worse than ever before. And I think like last year, I remember when we were moving back to Haiti, just having a lot of hesitancy and feeling very just like not great about it. And I just kept trying to pray that away. And I remember when we got there and lockdown started and the country just erupted again and everything was on fire and the violence was escalating and we were having safety issues with you and with our staff and, all of these different things were happening. I remember feeling like, whoa, like, well, this is new. Right. Like, what in the heck are we supposed to do about this? And for me, like the only things that I think got me through those seasons and prepared me for the one that we're in now was literally like journaling my tail off. Like I just remember journaling so much, blasting worship music. Like I constantly had like the same songs on repeat, just anthems that would like get me like remembering who God is, remembering his promises, and that despite what is happening, that he's still there, that when my heart is broken, he's nearer, that when, I go through fires, he's with me, like all of that. And so I remember just having that be something that drew me so much closer to him. Right. And the other part of that for me was it's been vital for me to have the friends that I do. And I've got a couple of people in my life that, like that get it. Like you have.
They're positive. They speak life into it. Yeah. And like, not everybody is going to be able to like relate to our life, right? But everybody can either jump on your ship of negativity or propel you
turn it around. Or turn it around. And ladies, we all know, like, if we're wanting to grumble, you know who to call if you want them to grumble with you. Sure. And you also know who to call if you want somebody to tell you the truth.
And point you right back to Scripture.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful that in that time that was like what I thought was one of the hardest times of my life, that I had those friends, because then you know who to call like when things get worse.
Amen.
And
Amen.
For me, it's always Jesus, and I just think like it's fascinating how the worse things get, like the more that I like love him, the more that I'm like, I think, how can you do this without the hope of
you're springboarding me right now,
eternity and all those things. So I think for me, like, are there practical things that people can do during COVID? For sure. Like, you can go on dates in your, on your back porch and try and connect, and you can meet people with masks on, and you can, spend more time than you would watching shows with your kids. Like, there's so many things practically that you can do. The first thing is like, if you're not spending time in the Word, if you're not spending time worshiping, it's going to backfire.
You can't experience it without the knowledge of it. And it's like, you just gave me 1,000 different springboards. That the biggest one that's screaming at me right now is, there is a crazy verse in James that has been Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds.
Because of why?
Because it will test your faith and give you perseverance for more trials ahead.
Yeah.
Imagine for a second.
It's like promising and terrifying for a second, all at the same time, right?
But imagine for a second you go through all of this season, and you literally just holding your breath, treading water, whichever analogy you want to think of, and you escape it. You get to the other side of it. But you didn't come up with any new tools. You didn't come up with any new...
Didn't change.
God says that there could be a tougher trial ahead, a harder season ahead.
Yeah.
So James is just saying, consider it pure joy, because in this season, you're learning stuff. You're learning stuff about God, where he's faithful. You're learning stuff about the importance of friends. You're learning how to connect with your spouse, how to connect with your kids, how to deal with them in an atmosphere you've never seen before. For what? For preparation.
For the battle ahead.
For the battle ahead.
And it sucks to say, but there are going to be battles ahead. That's
a promise.
It is, and it's like we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to hear it, And our Ox, he's 9. He's going to be 10 next month, and he came to us a few nights ago, just sad and I really don't stop. Please stop. I don't want you guys or the kids to talk about fires that are happening, or chaos happening here, chaos happening there, or COVID, or all this stuff. And we just said, Bud, we hate to tell you, there are going to be days like this. There's going to be worse days, and granted,
you need to be sensitive to his PG ears, but you can also.
But you also can't candy coat life, because he's going to have a rude awakening in a couple years when he is starting to hear more things in the world, but it's I think the innocence and the purity and the just childlikeness about just saying oh, this scares me, and it makes me afraid, and it makes me sad, and it makes me frustrated. That's a kid that, thank God, all of our kids we've been able to always have open communication with them. But I think so many more people just need to do that. I think that you see all these people that are fighting over this, fighting over that, fighting over this, and fighting over that. And if everybody just took a step back and was I'm afraid, or I'm sad, or I'm frustrated, or I'm broke, or I'm, my marriage is crumbling, or, whatever it is, and identifying what's actually happening, because otherwise it's just, we're going to just continue to see America fracture, and we're going to continue to see.
Well, let me take it back to kind of the point A, just to connect some of these dots, and we'll go from there. It starts with saying, for me, this season has been who am I? Who am I, and who do I want to represent?
Whose am I, too?
Whose am I? Yeah. You can drift, right? This is the whole idea of going with the flow. You can drift and end up places that you just don't want to be.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what ships you need to burn, what your plan A is, what your boundary is, you handle seasons different. So in the midst of this...
That's good. What ships you need to burn.
Right. What season we're in... we know that for every person there is in the world, there's a different way to handle it. I'm not going to say there's a right way or a wrong way. We just got done watching Survivor, me and my son, and a guy should have won. Our son. A guy almost won by doing everything wrong.
Oh, don't you hate that?
I don't know how...
just being shady biz.
No, yeah.
Or,
so this was season 19. Everybody remembers Russell. He's been on. He's been
terrible.
He's been on so many times as a villain.
Terrible.
But this was his first episode.
Yeah.
And he literally started the show saying, "I'm going to lie, cheat, steal, scam my way
and he
to
almost
survive."
won.
No, he did. On paper, there's no reason why he shouldn't have. But what he failed to realize is that now who has to choose him to be the winner
are the people
that
he
lied, steal,
right.
So. They picked the girl, and we could talk about that all day long.
Oh, babe, isn't that okay? This is what it makes me think of.
Yeah.
Think about even your own neighborhood, your own work environment, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody is going about their life pre-COVID, just doing their thing, whatever.
This is where I want to drive.
Not knowing their neighbors, not having deep relationships outside of themselves and their prepackaged life. And now you realize holy crap, we need each other. We have friends picking avocados off of our front porch.
That's where I'm learning from the Haitians.
We have people,
There's a season where when push comes to shove, I'm guilty of this. I've said in a surviving situation, what wouldn't I do? You have to know what you wouldn't do, though. You have to know, because if you survive it and there's one other person left in this world, you're going to need to get along with that person. You know what I mean? So, like I said, for the Haiti people, they've been doing this for so long. Since their conception, they've had these types of things going on. And I think that's why you see the majority of people, they're this is our time to get tight with our community, make sure that we share, our food with each other, share resources with each other, and get each other through the season. Where for us, this is not our first time as Americans experience it, but as a whole, especially in the season, it feels very unfamiliar. This feels like unfamiliar times. Me being 41 years old, it feels unfamiliar to me. But if you take a straight survivor's approach to it and you think just about me, how do I survive? How do I get my family by through this? You can get to the other side of this with way more damage. Mm-hmm. This is an opportunity, I think, when you say, my faith is important to me, my family's important to me, my community is important to me, my relationship, my work, all those types are important to me. And God says there's a promise that he works all things out to the good of those who keep their faith in and believe in him. Even the bad things of this world can be worked for good. So there has to be a question of what things do I want to protect in this season, and what things do I need to just get rid of? And I
okay, so what things, let's name a couple. What things do we need to protect? What things do we need to get rid of?
Well, we had to get small. Yeah. For us in this season, we had to get small. And what I mean by small is family. Our relationship with Christ, mine and yours relationship, and our relationship with our family had to be priority. Yeah. Had to be priority, because we can't change whether or not it feels good to wear a mask, whether or not toilet paper is out, whether or not we can go eat at a restaurant, whether or not we can go to youth group like we used to, or whether the kids get to go to public school or private school, whether they can do sport. All of those things couldn't matter. So we now are responsible to how do we handle that together? Do we allow that to get them depressed, angry, pitch fits, feel like the world's unfair, or do we speak truth into it? And do we prepare them and say, guys, this is a season for us to learn in, because God says trials are ahead of us too. So what can we come out of this with? Tools, truth, experiences that will prepare us for even harder days ahead. Yeah. So, I don't know. You and I've had a lot of interaction with people since we've been here. Obviously, this is the topic of the day and what seems to show up in conversation. Are you fixing to burp? I'm holding it in.
Babe, just let it out so you don't look weird.
That would be gross to burp on camera. But anyways, are you okay?
Because burping on camera is a better option than going. Oh, my Lanta. What? You're lucky.
That you're beautiful?
That.
I'm so lucky that you're beautiful. No, our hearts are always on display. So for us, if right now we're imagining we're actually speaking to a person or 5 people or whoever it is that's listening right now, that's just on the other side of it, where it's like, everything just feels like it's up in the air, it's in shambles. This season tested everything that they have and they're at the bottom of themselves. What are some of your key words then? What do you say to them? I mean, sometimes they feel cliche, but in these seasons is when we learn the depths of their meanings. Mm-hmm. For me, it's
what would I say?
Yeah.
Man.
If you don't quit, you win.
Yeah, if you don't quit, you win. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Like you said, some of it sounds cliche, but to me, it's true. Like, I can absolutely tell the days that I am not being worshipful, that I'm not, filling myself with the word, filling myself with worship, not choosing to praise. It's obvious. Like, those days are obvious. And so I think...
Tell me what that looks like, right? Because we hear that sometimes. Worship through the storm, sing through the storm, in your trials, have a worshipful heart.
Okay, so...
So what is that? What does that even look like?
There was a song that...
Does it look romantic?
No, it doesn't look romantic. I think it looks messy.
Walt Disney movie?
I think it looks messy. I think sometimes it looks like...
Does it look like pushing play, like, we're going to worship today whether you like it or not, because...
Sometimes.
Right, that's what I mean, yeah.
I mean, sometimes. Sometimes it looks like ugly crying with a song on repeat. And sometimes it looks like, I loved what Stephen Furtick said. And we're not going to go into Stephen Furtick because I know some of you probably don't like him. That's fine, whatever. But he's been speaking a ton of truth to us, and we've been loving some of his stuff, but we were listening to some of his old stuff on the way back from Haiti or on the way back from Florida. And I love when he was saying
let's write some worship songs about real life today.
About how we really feel. And he was like, you seldom lose a battle.
You seldom lose a battle.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to sing it, babe? Yeah. But what was the other one?
The other one was, you never let me down. Except for that one
time. Yeah. And then too, the pastor at the church that we've been visiting was talking about, a dark season that he had where he was like, somebody told me to listen to this worship song. I didn't want to listen to it, but by faith, meaning like I just had the faith to be like, I'm going to just throw it out there and do it anyway. And then it becomes like the song of your heart. And I think, like practically speaking, I just try like, you know, I'm not great at any of this, guys. Like, I'm definitely not a morning person, so I don't usually start my day like, oh yeah, like let's wake up and spend time with Jesus. More like, don't talk to me for 20 minutes.
You're making fun of me? That's how I wake up.
Yeah, that is how you wake up. But I don't. The reality is,
I don't go to bed that way.
Everyone in my family knows, like, do not talk to mama for a solid 15 minutes because I just don't wake up with joy in my heart. I should, but I don't. And so for me, a lot of times it'll be like last night at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing my Bible study, which is cool though, because then it prepares me like for the next day. But I think it's just like those practical things of like finding time. And I hate saying this because it's not like I'm like real cool because I have a lot to do, but I'm like, if I can find time, I feel like people can find time, right? So today it looked like, okay, I have this Upstream thing I have to do over here and this thing that I have to do over here and I have to go mail this and I have to teach Ox at this and like looking at the schedule and being like, okay, I can shower in this time.
While 22 pieces of luggage are staring you in the face.
While 22, and then just saying like, okay, well, I can worship while I get ready. So I threw on our worship album and like throw my favorite song on repeat and just, you know, like I think sometimes we overcomplicate it. Like it means like, let's sit down and study, you know, which there is a time for, of course.
Those are the most practical things. It takes us 18 minutes every morning to drive to the gym and 18 minutes back. We can choose to listen to the radio, sports radio, whatever it is that anybody can tune in. We've chosen. It's either a different book that we're going through, me and the boys on Audible, or it's worship music, or it's a sermon.
Yeah, and it is vital, like to be pouring that into you because.
But you have those times all throughout your day.
Yeah, the thing is though, is like I think that we sometimes think, oh, I'm gonna just sit down and read this, and I'm just gonna instantly feel better, or I'm gonna instantly have this be applicable to my life. And that's just not always the way that it works. Like, sure, there's times like last night I was studying and it just like hit me in the face. Like it was talking about like, if you can't love others, you can't love God. And I was like, oh my gosh, like where am I not loving others? Because I don't want to not love God. But then there's times where it's like, how many times have you heard the verse where he says like, when you go through fire, I'll be with you. When you go through the waters, like they won't come over you. Yeah. That never applied to my life in such a way until I'm actually driving through a fire with our kids or actually driving through a river with our kids, you know? But in that moment, you better believe that I was reciting that verse over and over again. And it just was like in my bank because I knew it. And so I think it's like, not going always, I mean, like, yes, you can go into the word expecting that God's going to speak to you because he always can and always will if you're willing. But there's times where you're going to just go and you're going to read it and you're going to go about your day, but then just keep on depositing that. And then at some point it's just going to come out and it's going to be applicable to like what you're going through. And for me, it's music. Like I just need worship on and as much as possible on, because music for me is like, especially, you know, like music that is like rich in scripture and rich in truth. Like it just, you know, it's kind of like, do you still know all the lyrics to Ice Ice Baby?
Sure.
What year did that come out? 89?
I don't know. But I wore out a lot of tapes rewinding it back to that song.
Right. So you can still recite that from 89. And so it just shows you like what our brains are capable of. And I don't know. I just think like, man, it's so vital to be really like filling yourself up with truth right now. So
filling yourself up in this, reading the word, worship, all that type of stuff.
And then grace, giving yourself grace.
And that's, I was going to say, getting grace from others and being honest. Mm-hmm. Like this has not been a great season of just like putting on your mask and faking a smile through it. I think one thing it's done is given us permission to know that everybody in some way is affected.
It's hurting, yeah.
And sometimes that commonality draws us together, you know, like war.
Yeah, like you just get it. You look at each other and you're like, you get it. Like you can look in the eyes of the people with masks at Target and know like she's feeling it.
And opportunities to capitalize on that though.
Yeah.
You know, have always been famous for pulling the family together when things are out of hand for a while and having a family meeting. But listen, mom and dad are just really struggling in this area, or I'm just having a really bad day in this area, or your brother's having and you get more focused on that time, right? You know, you have your fences and your walls and your defense set up all the time, but sometimes a particular area is weakened.
Yeah.
And
so like if you don't have family meetings, implement that. That's been huge for us. Like, and they have to be like more frequent than, not, because then your kids are going to think like when you sit them down that you're moving again, know, like what, we're moving, or, you're like, oh, we're going to have a family meeting, and they're like, what's going to happen? So for us, like we try to keep family meetings alive and well. And, like Joe said, you can kind of tell by the peace barometer in your home, like when you need that reconnection. And even sometimes for us, I'm like, what was it a few days ago? I was having a grouchy day. It's possible. And you were like, do we need to talk? Yeah. And I was like, no, I don't want to talk to you, but thank you for asking.
I think about...
We should probably wrap her up.
We will. And I just want to end on this. As individuals, we have extreme thresholds. Like we learn our threshold. Oftentimes God uses things like, we can... what we build upon our foundation. Rocks, hay, or stubble. Gold, emeralds, or jewels.
You say Ray Howell instead of rocks, hay, and stubble?
I think I was trying to say rocks and hay in the same word.
You want to start that sentence over?
How we build upon our foundation is the test of our building. As our life is a building and what we put into our foundation. Well, I was thinking about this while I was driving to the gym this morning. Our last home, nice home, 17, 18 years old, not that old of a house, built on a nice foundation. There was no cracks in it, no obvious anything. But when all of a sudden it was tested by some of the worst rains we ever had. Remember when we were in Haiti and we heard that our basement was taking in water and it was flooding?
Yeah, that happened once.
Right. So my point is you sometimes don't know how good your foundation is until it's leaking. But then you look at the circumstance around you, you realize, well, that's because in that season, it took on way more water than it's ever taken before. It was built for 3 inches of rain, and we got 6 inches of rain. Our lives sometimes can feel like that. And this season has probably tested a lot of people, where it's like, it not only rained 3 inches in 1 hour, it's been raining for 6 days. It's been raining for 9 months, however you want to look at it. And right now you feel like this foundation that I've always trusted in, it's leaking.
So then it helps you to recognize, like, what is my foundation?
Right. If your
foundation
is in yourself.
If your foundation is plan A or plan B, any plan. If your foundation is anything other than Jesus. Wow.
I think my hodgepodge story that sometimes I do better writing out before I just speak them is that this season has shown me, particularly, and maybe this is relatable to other people, is that maybe I've always been a little confident in myself. My confidence has come from who and what foundation I laid with Christ. But when push comes to shove and the rains are pouring, your confidence needs to be in the one that can handle it all. Yeah. Because your shoulders will give in at some point. You will break at some point. So where we lean back to is more of God. This is not a season to back out or to shake our fist at God and try to figure out what's going on in his infinite mind. It has been for us, we've had Jesus in our home, but not as much as this season. More worship has been played here, more sermons have been watched, more books have been read, more intentional time with our kids that wasn't there in the seasons past. Mm-hmm. It didn't mean that the foundations were bad then, but it means when all of a sudden...
They're stronger now.
Right. Yeah. And that will
But that's also a choice. That is a choice.
It is a choice. Mm-hmm. It is a choice when you don't have a plan B. When you say, come hell or high water, Jesus is my rock, then when it feels out of control, you show by faith that that's true in your life when you go back to him for your answers. The beautiful part about it that we recap through this thing is that when we do that and we see that it is through his grace, through his strength that we get through it, it's what gives us that confidence when another battle happens. Yeah. Could you imagine, just hypothetically, things feel like they're kind of going back to stable right now, and all of a sudden they were to go backwards? When somebody feels like they've just been hanging on by their fingertips and then things get a little bit harder, if you don't have the confidence of knowing what God has brought you through and your faith being strengthened in God, how is it going to handle when you've been going through rain for 6 months and all of a sudden that hurricane comes? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So yes, I would say quarantine season, Upstream edition is definitely not to go with the flow. It is the season to try anything and everything new that draws you closer to Jesus. Figure out how to do church in your home. Figure out how to pray more. Figure out how to, and not from a religious standpoint. Not from a, like, I'm going to do this to get this.
No, from like a literally
from
like life dependency.
A desperate place of saying, God, I have nothing else. I am, and by the evidence of my life, at the very end of myself, this is where you test God's promises and saying, God, be faithful. And in doing that, it's just the structure of how God seems to work. That happens in prayer, worship, and devotion to Him. If you want to hear God speak to you, you have to be in His Word. Yeah. And His promises are there.
The song that I was listening to on repeat while I was getting ready is Rita Springer. It's called Midnight. And I've been listening to it nonstop for the last couple of weeks since I found it. And one of my favorite parts about it is it says, like, I won't wait till sunrise. I will praise at midnight.
Amen.
And I think so many times, like, we're waiting for the storm to end. We're waiting for the new day to begin. We're waiting for, COVID to stop. We're waiting for, school to be easier, our marriage to be better, our kids to stop freaking out about homeschool. Like, whatever it is, like, we're waiting for that to worship. We're waiting for that to recognize, like, that God is who He is, no matter what we're going through. And so I love the verse that just says, like, I'll praise now. Like, I'm not going to wait until the morning. Like, it might be at midnight, but, like, I'll praise at midnight. I literally love it. Yeah. Like, it gets me, like, weepy. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I'm trying to put my mascara on. I can't be crying right now.
And God's a right now God. So it's not like He's sitting back being like, oh, so now in the final hour, you're going to start praying to me or reading your Bible or whatever. Like, no, that conviction, that revelation that comes to mind, just start today, start tomorrow. If it means swinging yourself out of bed again and starting to pray from your knees again, or setting a reminder, doing a daily deed, whatever it is.
Well,
just do it and allow God to show Himself.
Yeah,
faithful.
Even just practical. Like, we've been having some struggles with a particular kiddo as far as structure goes in school, and just trying to figure out the balance between structure and not so much structure, and schooling and not so much schooling. And so we created this little point system, and I intentionally put on the first thing, like, so there's like time of day, what they're supposed to do, how many points they get for doing it, and you get more points for the things that you like the least and whatever. And the first one is like, wake up and smile and go to the bathroom. And so he was like, or she, whichever one, was like, smile. And I was like, yes, like, I want you to make it an actual point, me too, to like smile and like instantly start your day with like the intention of like, no matter what, like, I'm awake, I have breath, I'm going to smile, I'm going to go to the bathroom, I'm going to start my day. And I think that is important to like
it is.
Remind your face that you
have joy. It seems cheesy. Sometimes
whatever.
And sometimes it feels like it didn't work when I wanted. Don't stop. Well, let's end this.
A smile can change everything though. Think about like when you're walking through, and obviously right now it just looks like this, like, smile. But think of like if you're having just kind of like a blah or a rough day, and somebody intentionally smiles at you.
It's infectious.
Yeah, you're like,
it's a blessing. I always tell kids in youth group all the time.
Smiling.
When you feel like you have nothing, smile, because smiling
it's a great
can bless
asset.
someone.
Yeah.
So end on encouragement. Here's the takeaway, at least from my standpoint of what I would do. I would say go home wherever you are.
They're probably at home.
I call it I call it.
Aren't you at home right now?
Yeah. I call it the sober mind. There's a time in your day where you're kind of at peace with things, and you just are in your sober mind. Pick who you are. Pick who you are, who you want to be, what you want to be known for. Make that your plan A and burn all your plan B bridges. There is no other option than for you to remain in Christ, in your marriage, be the best dad, be the best mom you can be, and then just don't quit.